Welcome to today's episode of Talking with Success. I'm your host, Eric Mays. Today, the person I'm talking with, I'm excited to sit down and have this conversation. A very important young lady who has done a lot of great things so far throughout her journey through this thing we call life. Adrienne Hollins. Adrienne is a proud mother. She's a registered nurse. She's an entrepreneur, business owner, just all around wonderful person that
Right.
I could go on and on talking about all the good qualities of Adrienne, but I'll let her tell you about that stuff herself. Welcome to the
Thank you for having me.
You've been really busy.
Absolutely. Very busy.
Very busy. You've done so much stuff. It would probably take maybe 30 minutes for me to rattle off all your accomplishments and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But let's start at what's going on right now.
What's going on right now? Well, right now, I'm, as you said, very busy. Running, 3 different companies, working full time, and enjoying every moment. Entrepreneurship is absolutely not easy. I'm sure you've spoken with several entrepreneurs, and you know yourself that it's not a 9 to 5. It's a 24/7, and so. As of right now, we're continuing to grow, continuing to work, and create new clients. My most recent venture with Biz Launcher. We started Biz Launcher to assist entrepreneurs in developing their fundable business. And so that's been going well, slowly adding clients to our client list. And so it's busy. It's busy, but it's fun.
So how do you find enough time in the day? Like I said before, you're a mom.
Mm.
You have a full-time job,
Yeah.
running 3 businesses, 3 thriving businesses. How do you find enough time to juggle or make sure things don't fall apart?
Well, that can be pretty difficult sometimes. Thankfully, I have a partner who we work very well together. And I think part of finding that time is building your team. That's super important when you have an enterprise or have a small business. And so definitely having a team around me that can help and assist me. But I think, when it's something that you really want to do, you find time. I consider my 9 to 5 to be my partner. I have to have my 8 to 5, 9 to 5, so that I can do what I want to do, between 5 and 9. And so I would say, if you enjoy it, you're going to find the time to do it. And secondly, having a good team behind you is very important.
So with that, I know it's hard enough to try to run one business. What were you thinking? You wanted to do not just one along with a full-time job, but you wanted to do 3.
Well, it started with the first one, ABL Solutions, which is a residential and commercial construction company, where we really specialize in residential remodeling. And when we started, I really didn't know that was something I was super interested in.
Okay.
Having a clinical background, I never thought that my interest would be piqued with construction, but it is. And then from there, about a year later, started Arm Homes, where we purchase properties and renovate them and either hold or sell them. And then a few years later, after building a fundable business, I studied it. I watched YouTube videos, I listened to podcasts, and I was like, man, we've got a lot of people out here with small businesses, but they're not fundable businesses. They're more like mom and pops. And when you want access to funding, you have to have established your business the right way. And because I had gone through all of the steps, I had done the studying, I felt like I could impart some knowledge into others who could, potentially want to start a business. So, that there came Biz Launcher. Okay. Where we assist, future entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs in establishing a fundable business, because there is a difference. And so never really intentionally planned to be owner of 3 businesses, but that's how God would have it to be, and I'm enjoying it.
And you said the word fundable a couple times, and it kind of makes me laugh because nowadays it seems like being an entrepreneur is the catchphrase, right? A lot of people you come across throughout life, you ask, hey, what do you do for a living or what's your business? I'm an entrepreneur, but then they can't give you any insight as to what their business is.
Yes.
And I know that in the last few years, we've had a wave of, you see it all the time on social media and online with advertisements of, hey, we can help you start a business, or else it's these get rich quick schemes.
Right.
If you go out and file an LLC and get a tax ID number, you can go open a bank account and they'll give you money to do whatever with.
Right.
So was that part of what pushed you toward that realm of helping people create fundable business?
Honestly, yes. When we kind of had the idea to start ABL Solutions, there were some steps that we took that we later found out that, oh, we should have done this first
Okay.
and we should have done this first. Establishing business credit, all the things that I never even thought about before starting the enterprise. And so once we established ABL the way it should be established, we established our organizations as corporations, learning that lenders, if you want them to see you as a legitimate establishment or a legitimate organization, you have to create your organization that way. And so, yes, we saw all of the get rich quick, start you an LLC. We can get you 50,000, 20,000, 30,000. And unfortunately, we fell victim to some of those. And that's why I feel like we had the ability to share because we learned from the mistakes. And because we made some mistakes and we were able to learn from them, I feel like we can share this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. And on top of that, yes, there are opportunities for businesses to get funding because we know when you want to start a business, it takes money, especially if you're trying to grow and scale. And so there are funding opportunities out there, but if you've not established the foundation of your company the right way, I mean, you're going to get turned away. And we already know that that is a challenge in our community anyway.
So it takes a lot of discipline when you're trying to start a business. And do you find that, well, I guess let me rephrase it. How do you find the time in between going from, like you said, your primary career, which is that's priority A?
That's right.
Being able to be flexible enough to, you have those long days at work, and then you're trying to do it, whether it's a side hustle or whatever, until you can grow it to the point to where you can focus on that solely. How do you prioritize what you need to do to get stuff done?
Well, again, I think it goes back to understanding, a lot of times, when someone starts a business, they ready to quit their full-time job, immediately. And I think we have to reframe how we think about our full-time jobs. Our full-time jobs allow us to do those things that we want to do. And whatever that is, whatever your business is, your full-time job is your partner in that. And so I think that's number one, identifying that I still need this job for now until you're able to replace that income consistently. Not, oh, you replace it once and like, okay, I'm ready. When you're able to replace that income and do it consistently, then you can possibly move on. But one is understanding that your 9 to 5 is your partner. From there, I think understanding that you don't have to do it alone. I know a lot of us like to call ourselves self-made and all of those kinds of things, but even large organizations have a board.
Absolutely.
Large organizations have a CEO, but they also have a board. And so it's prioritizing building a team of people that you trust. And that was one of the things that we established pretty early on was, building that team. And then from there, like I said, if you want to do this, you're going to put in that extra time. You're going to make some sacrifices because one of those things, one of those things you're going to have to sacrifice is time, possibly having fun, because you are continuing to learn and feed yourself knowledge about how you can grow and scale your business. It all starts with an idea, but you've got to continue to grow and feed yourself, learn from other entrepreneurs, listen to some podcasts, small business podcasts. And those are the things that, I was listening to podcasts all the time. I would wake up in the morning before I would start work and I would listen to a podcast related to business. I would listen to a podcast related to funding my business, how my business needed to be organized, what paperwork I needed to have. I'm not a lawyer, but I know there are lawyers out there who are sharing this information on podcasts.
And nowadays you can get information pretty much anywhere. Oh, in your phone.
Absolutely. Our phones should not just be used for scrolling. Use your phone as an educational resource. And that's exactly what I did. On my way to work, when I was still in the office, I was listening to a podcast every morning.
And see, that's smart because I've heard successful people throughout different genres or industries say that if you really focus yourself, especially the amount of time that people spend in their cars, sitting in traffic or commuting back and forth to work or school or wherever, you can actually take an online course while driving.
Absolutely.
Right? You have access to all the stuff. It's just a matter of flipping a switch on your mindset on what you're going to listen.
Right. My partner and I, we would listen to, he may find a good podcast and he would share that with me and I may find one and I'd share that with him. But every morning we were listening to a podcast. Some examples, Millionaire Mindset. We would listen to Millionaire Mindset every morning. Ash Cash, that was one of the first podcast shows that I listened to, talking about real estate, talking about how to grow your business. Several podcasts that were out there that I could share that really helped. Number one, increase our knowledge base in regards to having an organization. And number two, kind of humbling you and saying, okay, there's some additional steps that I need to take and not grow this thing too fast so that you can be prepared for what God has for you.
So how tough is that though? Because I know especially nowadays I always say we live in a microwave society.
Mhm.
People want everything instantly, want instant gratification. There it gets lost in the sauce of some of the best things are going to take time in order to come to fruition. So when it doesn't happen overnight or it doesn't happen as quickly, the growth that we want, or the revenue, the profits that we want don't happen as quickly as we would want them to be. How do you deal with that and saying, okay, let's follow these steps and let's not try to reinvent the wheel, but let's make sure we learn, get the knowledge, and then we can move forward.
I'm so thankful for my partner because when we started off just doing simple maintenance. For homeowners, for a couple of small businesses that had some rental properties that they needed some work done, and so we started very small, $85 jobs and $50 jobs, and then it from there it went on to $1,000 jobs and $2,000 jobs, until we got that $1,000 job and so on and so forth, and started working with larger organizations. And I remember during that time, we were able to establish our processes, right? And so bookkeeping processes, meeting weekly and having
that bookkeeping is key.
Absolutely.
Bookkeeping is
Absolutely. Key. If you do not have a good accountant, that should be priority when you are starting an organization. But processes are so important. And I think we kind of glaze over that when we start a business, because we want to make sure we got our paperwork right. We want to make sure we are using business funds for business purposes, and you've got business bank accounts.
No putting a business.
You need a separate business bank account, and that's part of that starting a fundable business, establishing your processes. And we did that while we had the small jobs. It was amazing. And I look back and the larger you get, you kind of veer away from your processes, your foundation. And so you always have to remind yourself, hey, let's go back. We used to do this and things were a lot smoother back then. So establishing a good foundation and good processes in your business, I would say, is priority.
So you went to school and you were working in the medical field.
Yes.
And what was it that flipped that switch? Because I remember you telling me before you never thought about entrepreneurship.
Never.
You never thought about owning your own business.
Never.
So what was it that made that light bulb go off to say, hey, I think I want to do this?
Well, back in 2021, end of 2021, I completed my master's in business. And the reason I got my master's in business and not nursing was because I wanted to be able to sit in, meetings with, VP of ops and hospital presidents, and not only have a clinical knowledge, but also have a business knowledge. And so that's why I decided to go that route, never knowing that I would eventually become an entrepreneur and have a business. And that following year, I was sitting with my partner one day and we were like, hey, let's start a business. We just gonna cut grass. Let's just start a grass cutting business. I can start a business and have my son cut the grass.
Did your son know?
He did not know at the time.
Okay.
But at the time I was actually listening to podcasts about business, but really, was not thinking about having this. I never knew, but I think God works in mysterious ways. And I just think during that time, there was a transition for me. I was looking for what was next. And it just so happened to be that it was not a grass cutting landscaping business. It ended up being construction and remodeling. And thankfully, my partner has some extensive knowledge and background in construction. And over those next few months and these last couple of years, I have really grown an affinity to construction and remodeling and designing, and you don't know until you know. You don't know until you know. And it's crazy. I remodeled my personal home, and at the time that I remodeled my personal home, I was like, I don't know what color schemes to use. I don't know, how I want it to look. And the further I got into that remodel, I was like, okay, I like this.
Like I can do this.
I can do this. I'm actually pretty good at this, putting this together. And so I'm so thankful that All my life I thought I just clinical. I want my check every 2 weeks.
You want that stability.
I want my check every 2 weeks. I want my benefits, and that was it. But God had a different plan, and I'm so thankful that I've learned this new industry and really enjoyed working in the industry.
So it's funny that you say that because, like you said, you wanted that stability of I want my check every 2 weeks. I know if I work X amount of hours, I'm going to bring X amount of money home.
Yes.
And that I can count on. I see a lot of times that there are so many people that have these hidden talents that they don't tap into, or they have ideas that they want to do it, they want to try it, but they feel like I don't want to risk giving up that stability of, hey, I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I always say that being comfortable is the first symptom of falling asleep. So a lot of people are afraid to step out and even try to not necessarily start the business right off,
Yeah.
start the process of being able to get the knowledge that they need to see if they can move into that.
I would agree with you. And I was probably there, early on. Of course, being so used to getting my check every 2 weeks, not that that was going to change, but that my attention may be drawn in a different area. And I wanted to you definitely want to make sure that you're giving your full-time job the attention it deserves. But I would say when you really want something, and you begin to understand how an LLC can benefit you, can benefit your family, the tax benefits of having an LLC, and of course doing it legally, I think that gives you motivation to want to grow your business. And at the same time, I feel like when you start a business, you don't want to just do it for the money. We all want to make, of course, we all want to make money. But I read somewhere that some of the most successful businesses created were those businesses that solved a problem.
Yes.
That solved a problem. And so if you can identify something that you enjoy doing and it solves a problem and you're helping people, I think that's where we grow. That's where we grow, and it's a good foundation. And I think that's what ended up happening. I found something that I loved and I really enjoyed. I almost thought I enjoyed it more than what I was doing full time. It's kind of there became a point where I'm like, man, I don't even want to go to work. I just want to do this.
You think it was a challenge that you fell in love with?
It was a challenge. It was a challenge, but it was just so different. I was able to use my business knowledge and doing bookkeeping. And the further we got into real estate and that next year of business, I started enjoying real estate so much because the way I could vet a deal, the way a deal would come in, and I began to learn stuff about the market and learning about finances and building budgets. And I'm like, man, who would have thought that this would be something that I enjoy? But I do. I love it. I love when somebody sends me a house and say, "Hey, is this a good deal?" Hey, let me take a look. And I can talk about it all day. And I'm just so thankful to God that I was able to identify something outside of my clinical expertise that I can enjoy and I could actually be good at.
Okay. Just thinking about it, coming from the medical field and your background in that, you're used to dealing with people all the time, especially as being a registered nurse.
Yes.
You're dealing with patients, and a lot of times in that career field, you're meeting people at probably their lowest. And so now, how has that helped you transition into what you're doing now? Even though you're still working in medicine in your full-time job, but with what you guys are doing now with your business.
Well, I think in any role, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work in another industry and you're an employee, it's all about the relationships that you can build. Networking is key. No one knows everything. So when we talk about building a team and networking, I think the comfortableness that I had, with my patients has really transitioned and has really flown over into how I deal with customers when it's time to sell a home, or how I deal with wholesalers or realtors when we're trying to build relationships and identify properties. The people that we meet in the industry who have done bigger and better things than we have, and to be able to sit down and have conversations with them and build relationships with them. I think that's been something that I had when I was in bedside nursing that's really been a benefit on this side in entrepreneurship, building those relationships and networking, which, I enjoy that too. I enjoy talking. And when you're passionate about something, you can talk about it all day.
It's a lot easier.
You can talk about it all day. Yeah.
So you guys are operating in an industry that, let's face it, changes in the government, changes in economic climate, all those things.
Right. Yes.
Does it get a little scary sometimes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a scary time right now. And one thing I will say, real estate is risky. It is a risky industry to be in. And what I learned transitioning into this industry is that my risk tolerance had changed. Back in the day, I'm not taking no chances with my yeah, I need all my coins. But then I realized my risk tolerance had changed. I was more averse to risk a larger amount of money, understanding the potential to either have a great return or I could lose it. I've gotten money and I've lost money. So you do have to be prepared for that in this industry. Right now, the market is tough, especially, fourth quarter. I've got a property under renovation right now that, will probably be coming out in this quarter or the first, and it's probably the worst time to enter the market. But that's the risk you take when you get into this industry. But where there's great risk, there's great reward. We know that. And so that may be why I enjoy it so much. But yes, it does get scary. It does get scary being an entrepreneur. You have to understand cash flows.
Yes.
Right? You got to understand.
Which a lot of people don't.
Yes. And a lot of people do not. And we didn't. I don't think in the beginning, we didn't understand the importance of cash flows. And now we do. And so that's one of those things, when I'm sitting and I'm having a conversation with an entrepreneur or someone who wants to start a business, that's one of those foundational principles that I think is really important to kind of say, you may get this lump sum payment here, but what are you going to get the following week? What are you going to get the following week? And so what's going to be going out? So understanding cash flows is really important. And that's when it gets scary, when the cash flows begin to slow. And that happens.
Because the cash flow or no cash flow is the difference between a business and a hobby.
Absolutely.
If you don't have any revenue, any profits coming in, you don't have a business.
You have a hobby. And IRS will tell you that, hey, this doesn't look like a business. It's kind of a hobby.
It's something you're doing.
I need you to get that together. Yes, but that is true. That is true. Cash flows are so important, and it's those foundational principles of business that I think a lot of us overlook, that we definitely need to have our eyes on and be aware of, because it can get really scary when your cash flows are low. But I would say, what? It's how you react to it. How are you going to react when your cash flows get low? Because it will happen. It will happen. And how are you going to bounce back? And I think I just have that bounce back in me. It's in my blood. I just
can't remember who said this, and I would love to give them credit, but I read something that said one measure of success is how high you bounce after you hit rock bottom. And so it's easy for people to see the glamour and the highs of being a business owner. But the failures or the learning opportunities, that's where success is really created.
Absolutely. You don't lose, you learn. Let's say you have a business or you've had a business and it didn't go well. It didn't turn out the way you expected it to. Don't ever say, oh, I'm never doing that again. It's how you respond. It's how you respond to adversity. This adversity is no different than personal adversity. If you can bounce back in your personal life, you can absolutely bounce back in your business. It may take some time, but you have to see it as a learning opportunity, not a failure. In all things, if the business does well, learning opportunities. If the business doesn't do well, there were some learning opportunities. And make sure that you actually learn, that you take the lesson that God was trying to show you in that and use that to fuel, your next endeavor. And so it's all in how you respond to adversity, because it's going to come.
Definitely. It's definitely going to come. And, I'm a firm believer that we all get tested, and I think God has a way of continuing to show you to bring the same test back and forth. It's going to hit you. You're going to be tested over and over again to pass that test. And so, like you said, it's learning opportunities, and we would love to be able to learn from the success stories, but unfortunately, part of it is the failures or things don't go the way we hope for. How do you deal with those setbacks when they come? Because like you said, in real estate, there is no guarantee. If it was a guarantee, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
But it's like that in any industry. So how do you deal with setbacks when they come?
Well, definitely experienced several setbacks. And I'm a strategist. I feel like I'm a strategist. And so my answer to when tough times come is to sit down and strategize.
Okay.
For example, when you spend money, and this is in your personal life and in your business life, I feel like you should be spending money to make money.
Yes.
Right? We spend a lot of money on things that make us look good in our clothes and jewelry, and zero return on that. But if you reframe your mind and you think, okay, I'm going to spend this money to make more money, think a lot of us would be in a better financial position. Now, when it comes to real estate, that's very risky because you may have to spend a lot of money to get a lot of money. You may spend a lot of money and your ROI is not as good as what you thought it would be. And so you take that and you learn from it. But I would say, like, I think I deal with things a little different than most people. I don't wallow. I don't wallow when bad situations come. I give myself about 24 hours to have my sob story or whatever. And then it's time to, yeah, exactly. And then it's time to figure it out. It's time to figure it out. And so get your team together and y'all figure it out. Again, because you know that those challenging times are going to come. And when you get on the other side and you have that testimony, what a testimony it will be when you can say, you know what, this was a tough time and I thought I was going to lose it all. And maybe you do lose it all. Maybe you do. But if you got it once, you will get it again.
Especially if you learn the lessons that you battle tested. So you've proven that
you listen to these podcasts and you hear about these millionaires and, I lost it all and I got down to this and I got down to that. And they're like, okay, well now I'm back up and I've got 23 properties and all this kind of stuff. And those were the things that would give me hope. Because I would say, well, if God did it for them, like, how could he not do it for me?
Absolutely.
And those are the things that give you hope. So I wouldn't take advice from anybody who has not dealt with some type of adversity and has learned from that adversity. That's number one. In business, do not take advice from someone who has not experienced some adversity and learned from that adversity, because you will experience adversity in entrepreneurship, but it's all in how you respond.
Yeah.
It's all in how you respond. Yeah, like I think I just deal with things differently.
Where did that shake back come from? When was that built inside you? Were you born with that? Is it something that you learned from people around you growing up? Where did Adrienne find that ability to shake back and keep it moving?
I would say that I was born with it, but I just think the women in my family, that's what I saw. I saw it shake back. I saw, I'm not going to be defeated due to my circumstances. And so I've always had that mentality. I had children very early in life, got married very early in life, and let other people tell it. When I got pregnant at 18, your statistics.
Really the beginning of the end.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, such a smart girl, but she went and got pregnant, and now she's probably not going to, do what she should have done. And if you allow that to be the story, then that's unfortunate. But I wasn't going to allow that to be the story. One, because that's not what the women in my family did. We worked through adversity. We learned through adversity. And so I think that I would say I was born with it, but I also saw it in my mom and saw it in my grandmother. Never saw them give up. Never saw my mom give up. Now, she may have had some crying nights, but I didn't see them. I had several crying nights and my children didn't see them either. I wanted my kids to see me succeed and see our family succeed. So, when you figure out what your why is, that why will continue to push you and push you and push you to achieve the goals that you have for yourself.
And it's key that you say that, because we often hear that, you have to figure out your why. But too many times it's easy for people to figure out their why not.
Yes.
Like you got 1,000,001 why not.
Yeah.
And, I can't afford to do this or I can't afford to do that. And while I understand that financial stability is important, a lot of it is based on mindset, right? It's like, say, we spend money all day, every day on things that aren't going to bring a return.
Oh, yeah.
I always say that we spend money on things we don't need, trying to impress people that we claim we don't.
Right.
So it's just it's a mind shift of, okay, let's focus on, I can either spend this money on what I want right now, or I can actually take this money and use it as a resource to spend it on something, or better yet, not spend it, but invest it something that is going to pay dividends down the road.
Because that's exactly what it is. It's an investment. This woman probably doesn't know this, but there was a woman back in my hometown of Shreveport.
Okay.
I saw her and she told her story. She said, when your income is lower, you get tax refunds. Well, most of us, we want to buy a cash card. The refund is spent before we even get it, right?
Absolutely.
And I remember her when she was telling her story that she would save her tax refunds. Year over year, she would save her tax refunds. And eventually she started her own business. Young lady, had a child early in life, wasn't married, and I saw her business grow year over year over year. She would just grow. She marketed herself. She did a lot of things on her own. And when she told that story about how she took her tax refunds to grow and start this business, I was impressed.
Yeah.
I was impressed because it takes so much discipline.
That's what I was
to
thinking.
do that. It takes so much discipline to do that. And so a lot of people say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I got this. You know, you can do what you put your mind to.
Absolutely.
If you have the discipline to do it, you can do it. If you say, I'm going to start just by saving $100 a month until I get $1,000 or until I get the $300 to start the LLC, boom, the LLC is started. Okay. And then I'm going to save another $100 a month until I get, you know, what I need to invest in the materials or the equipment that I need. It's the discipline. And think about it, the time has to pass anyway.
That's the key, right?
It's got to pass anyway.
The minutes are creeping, they're ticking off.
Yeah.
So that time is gone. You're never getting it back. So it's a matter of, and always same thing when it comes to money, right? You're either spending or investing.
Yeah.
Same thing with time. You're either spending or investing.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of, what am I going to use this time for? Because when it's not coming back.
Yeah. You're not going to get it back. And if the Lord said the same, the time is going to pass anyway. Whether it's starting that degree program, whether it's going back to school, whatever it is you've put on your to-do list that I'm going to do this. We create those at the end of the year, every year, to say, hey, I got a goal to do this. And then we get to the end of the year and it's still not done. Whatever that is, if the Lord said the same, the time is going to pass anyway. So start now.
Start now. Yeah. And there's a saying that people fall victim to the law of diminishing intent. And what that is the law of diminishing intent simply states, the longer you put off doing something that you should do right now, the greater the chances you'll never do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's so true. When I started Biz Launcher, I had been thinking about doing this in year one of ABL Solutions.
Really?
Year one of ABL Solutions, when it was about 6 months in, and when I tell you I was so methodical about growing the business credit, I was watching the videos and everything that people would tell me to do, I did. You get this 80 Paydex score, got my personal credit score where it needed to be, and it finally got that business MX. And I was like, oh, I just did this.
Like, I'm doing it.
Like,
yeah.
I methodically did this, and I didn't rush it. I didn't rush the process. I was like, man, if I can do that, like, who knows what else I can do? And there's so many people that I know that have businesses that probably don't know anything about this. It was such a methodical process. And so I had the idea of like, man, I'm going to help other people do this. Back then, that was end of 2022, early 2023. And at the end of 2024 is when I started Biz Launcher. And so all that time went by and I didn't do anything. I didn't create that business. And I was just telling people at that time, I was like, hey, you can do this, you can do this. And I still to this day don't have a problem sharing knowledge because I just want us all to win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I just want us all to win. But I had that vision back then and then finally took the step to do it. And so when the vision comes, write it down. And make it plain and establish how you're going to get there. How do you want to do it? If it's going to be a slow process, just be patient. Be patient and be disciplined. And so that's what I would encourage anyone to do. If you have a vision for something and all you see is why you can't do it, write down why you can. And what are those small steps, those small interventions that you can do to inch you closer to that goal? Because when you look back, you'll see, man, I wrote this down 2 years ago. Exactly. And you put in the work. Like that time's going to pass anyway.
And it is key that you said that, right? Because the possibilities are endless when you say, figure out why I can do it. But once you tell yourself that you can't do something, your mind is automatically going to shut off and not even try to figure out ways to make it happen because you've already convinced yourself that it's not, I can't do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have the resources. I don't have the education. I don't have the people around me. You
Right.
can come up with every excuse on why not to even get started.
We love doing that.
Yeah.
And that why you can't list ends up being longer than the why you can.
Yes.
And so you're just going to go with the why I can't.
And it's crazy because all it takes is one.
Just one.
Right. I always hear, I'd heard that early in my career where somebody I worked with said, all it takes is one good idea. Right. You might fall short 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But all it takes is that one.
Yeah.
And what happens too many times, people give up before they get to that one yes or that one idea that actually pops.
Yes.
But that's where you got to build up a certain amount of muscle memory and sweat equity to say, look, I know that I got some good ideas. I might just need to tweak the fundamentals of what I'm doing in order to make things happen.
And I will say, like, a lot of us, I'm actually not an idea person. I don't come up with just great ideas. You know what I'm saying? I'm very practical, but I'm a planner. Like everything I do, even at work, you know, 'cause I'm a project leader. I'm a nurse, but you know, I work in project management, and so everything I do is like planned. And so and when you talk about building your team, you need both. You need someone who's the visionary, someone who can see the future and can come up with these ideas and they see it, but they can't necessarily put it into action, right? And so that's where building your team becomes super important. And my partner and I talked about that in the beginning when we knew we wanted to get into real estate. We were already doing renovations for other people, for homeowners, and even some commercial renovations. I'm like, man, if we're doing it for other people, then we can probably do it for ourselves, but didn't necessarily know like how to do it.
Yeah.
And so we just began asking questions, putting the right people on the team. And then that team, you know, you can go back to, you got a broker, a mortgage broker, you've got an agent, you've got a wholesaler, you've got a lender, and all these people that you need on your team to be successful. We made sure to build that team because we knew, yeah, we had the idea, but how do we put that idea into action?
And the key thing saying that is you guys didn't kill yourself by thinking, oh, I don't want to share this with anybody. And that's what happens too often, right? People have an idea and they think, oh, if I bring in too many people right now, they're gonna cut into the piece of the pie that I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Nothing from nothing leaves nothing, right?
Exactly. Bring in people you trust.
I would personally rather have 1% of something than 100% of nothing.
Yeah. That's a great point. I remember the first home we bought from a wholesaler. We were like, okay, yeah, the numbers pencil out. You know, it looks good. It looks like there's going to be some profit here. But we remember saying that even if we don't make any money off this price, if we break even, we learn.
Learning experience.
We learn.
The knowledge is what they take away from it.
And that was what mattered to us the most. I'm like, yeah, we could probably make $60,000 on this one if we flip it. But what we really wanted to do was learn. And I'm glad you said that because it reminded me. I'm like, yeah, we were like, oh, if we make some money, great. We want to learn. We want to learn how to do this.
That's where the hidden value is, right? Because the knowledge, even if I don't make, I don't want to lose.
You don't want to lose.
But even if I don't make a profit on this first one, the knowledge that I'm going to gain off this first transaction or this first process is going to pay dividends down the line.
More valuable, way more lessons, what you can learn. And I say real estate is real estate for me, but it could be, you know, another industry for someone else. What you learn is way more valuable.
Yes.
You know, than the money. Money comes and goes. And when I learned that, I was like, it was almost like a light bulb cut on in my head when you realize, and I heard this on a podcast, money is an endless resource. There is so much money out here.
You got to have the knowledge to be able to execute.
That's it.
And it'll flow to you.
I never thought that way when I was younger, early on in my marriage. I never thought like that. It was just like, okay, well, let's try and keep as much of this little money.
As much as we
need to keep it. Our parents didn't teach us about investing. They probably didn't know about investing. It was when you get your money, you need to put some to the side and save. But other people that don't look like us were investing. And it was principles that I just never knew anything about. You know, learning that money is an endless resource. You're going to lose some, you're going to make some. It's just about how you learn, what you're learning in the process of that. What principles are sticking with you that you can pass on to your children and your children's children. And that's what I care about the most. In entrepreneurship, what principles have I learned that I can pass on to my children, that I can pass on to my grandchildren, so they know, like, don't let this control you. There's plenty of it out here. Plenty of it out here. Invest it. Compound interest. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. So, you know, it's been really fun. It has been challenging, especially in the real estate space, but it's been fun.
And it's funny because, you know, like we're talking about the knowledge. I remember years ago, I was working at one company and I had a manager that he told me one day, he said, Eric, what's wrong with you? You must be crazy. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, all these other guys come in, all they want is, I want a raise, or I want more overtime, I need more money. He said, "You never asked for that."
Mm.
I said, "Well, my philosophy has always been, for some reason, I just look at life like I want to learn as much as I can learn.
Mhm.
Teach me everything that you can teach me.
Yeah.
Because at some point, the money's going to take care of itself.
That's right.
Either you'll reward me for my knowledge or somebody else will."
That's right. That's right.
And then I met another guy who said something to me that stuck with me. He said, "You realize a raise is only good for 2 pay cycles." He said, "You open that first check to see how much it is. You open that second one to make sure it's still there.
Okay.
After that, it's not a raise anymore." So you got to find something else to motivate you besides that.
Very true. Very true. And I think what's motivated us the most in entrepreneurship is, one, sharing the knowledge.
Yes.
We love teaching and sharing and wanting our families and our friends to know what we know.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was just some hidden information that how could I not have known this? How could I not have known that the tax code was really meant for businesses and it's not meant to benefit individuals? And how could I not have known that, oh, I can just buy houses? I mean, there was a time in my life I never thought I would own a home. I purchased several properties in the last few years. And so
now you're playing real life Monopoly.
Like, we buying houses, like we buying candy. Like, this is real. And it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's challenging. And anything that's challenging to me is rewarding. And so, I just feel like, we've unlocked some knowledge and we just want to share it and encourage people, to really seek knowledge, be a lifelong learner. If there's something you don't know about, go research it, because the information is out there. Nobody taught me. Business school didn't even teach me about real estate.
Really?
Business school. I mean, I learned quite a bit in business school, but it was kind of focused in healthcare management.
Okay.
And so, business didn't teach me about real estate. Everything I know about real estate to this day, I learned by researching.
And hands-on training.
Lots of hands-on training, and I'm amazed by that, because to learn a whole new industry without any formal education in that area is a blessing. And so I always encourage people, like, hey, you can call me, you can ask me, and I'll share it with you. I'll share my resources with you.
This is why God continues to open doors.
I mean, you can't, don't be a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
It's plenty out here for all of us. It's plenty out here for all of us. And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm not gatekeeping. God gonna bless me wherever he gonna bless me.
Yeah. Whatever he got in store.
Yes, whatever is for me is for me. And whatever I can share with someone else to help them grow and help them establish processes and what it is they're trying to do, I'm willing to do that.
So I think we touched on this before, and you mentioned, I know everybody that's reached any level of success, regardless of what they're doing, they've got a testimony. Some have more than one. You feel like sharing your testimony. What was that aha moment, or that moment where it's just like, okay, I got to do something?
My testimony is that I've been able to show my children something that I never thought I would be able to show my children. I think when I started ABL Solutions, Arm Homes, I didn't know the impact that it would have on my children, who didn't really come from a family of entrepreneurs. They came from a family of career professionals, and mostly in healthcare. And for my daughter to start her lash business, and she's been going strong for over 2 years now, and does really well. And to see her grow and mature, establish her own business processes. She has her school assignments where she sometimes you got to write a little something. and Lauren's not going to tell me how she really feels, like, to my face, but she'll put like in a paper she's written about how, she's been inspired by her mom. And, I want to have a successful business like my mom. And so I would say, the greatest thing that's come from being an entrepreneur is the influence that I've had on my children, my daughter specifically. And even Brian has discussed wanting to start some business, outside of whatever his profession ends up being. And it's cool because it's like, man, when I was that age, I never thought about being an entrepreneur. So that's my testimony, that I've been able to impart something in my children that I never thought I would be doing.
They see mama go hard.
Yes, they do. They see me work. I got a computer in front of me all the time, and they've seen that since before ABL, since before I became an entrepreneur, but even more so after, to get dressed and put my shirts on, I go visit with clients, and they're just like, okay, she doing this? And
That takes a certain level, like we talked about discipline. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, but I always say discipline shows up when the passion starts to die out.
that's
Because
right.
it's easy to do it when you enjoy doing it.
It's easier when you're making a lot of money too.
Exactly.
When the money slow down, you're like, I ain't doing this no more. But do you really love it?
That's where the discipline has to come
Yeah.
in, right? Because as the owner, you have to show up when nobody else.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Pretty sure you have those days where you're like, man, I'd rather just stay in the bed today. You know, you're working a 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and on the weekends you're like, okay, look, I just want to relax this week.
Yeah.
Sleep in late, but you got clients out there that you got commitments you got to
Mhm.
stick with.
Well, thankfully, I have a partner that, if I'm down, he's up. If he down, I'm up. And that's just kind of how we've got that good balance. And I love that. I love that I have someone that can hold me accountable. And we can hold each other accountable. I just think that's important, because there are going to be some days when you don't want to do it and you want to give it all up, especially when it looks like things are falling apart. When it looks like things are falling apart, it's so easy to just walk away. But I'm not a walk away kind of person. It's just like we gonna fight and we're gonna figure this out. And so when I have those moments when I don't want to do it, I can't say that I've ever really given in to that. It's just not in me to do so. And lean on your help. Our help comes from God. My help comes from God. And I don't think He would have brought me this far for me to just give up. The things that He's allowed me to see, I cannot unsee. The things that He's allowed me to experience in entrepreneurship, I can't unfeel that. I've had it now. And so it would be a disservice to Him, to God, for where He's brought me, for me to just quit, for me to just give up. And honestly, that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going.
Who are your role models?
Number one is my mom, of course. My mom is definitely my role model. Always has been all my life. My mom, had 3 children before the age of 21. She was the first person in our family to graduate college, has served honorably 20 years in the United States Air Force. I've seen my mama shake back from a lot of different things, a lot of different challenges. And so she's always been my motivation. Like if I did something well in school, made a good grade on a test, or, got accepted into a college or got a job offer, my mom typically the first person I call. And I would say, secondly, my grandmother, she's the same. She's a very strong Black woman who really invested a lot in my education. Okay. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for my grandmother investing in my education the way that she did. And so very thankful for that. What's crazy is because I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs, I didn't have any entrepreneurial role models.
Okay.
And so I wouldn't say that I have any role models when it comes to entrepreneurship, but I will say that I've learned a lot from those people who have taken the time to create podcasts for those small businesses out there. And so I would encourage, continue to do that. Yeah. There are so many people that want to do something and don't even know where to start. And these podcasts and these YouTube channels, Instagram and TikTok, are such valuable resources to those of us who are ready to start. And so I would say that I appreciate the knowledge that people put out for us to glean from.
So if you had some young ladies, junior high, high school, even elementary school, not even necessarily young ladies, but kids and youth in general that were interested in potentially walking the same path that you walked, or going to the industry that you, whether it even be real estate or something else. Yeah. They have these dreams or these visions that keep coming back, and they need somebody to speak life into that. What would you say to them?
I would say, firstly, write it down. And I'm a firm believer in that. I wrote something down years ago, and after I bought my home, I went back to that, and it almost brought me to tears that everything that I had written down, I completed. And buying my home was actually the last thing on that list. It's something I never thought that I would be able to do. Write it down and pray over it, right? Give that vision to God. And then do some work. It's not going to fall in your lap.
Yes.
It is not going to be given to you. You have to be willing to do the work. And the work could be learning. That could be the first step. Learning as much as you can about what it is that you want to do, right? Ask the right questions. Get a team together, get some people together and just ask and learn. I don't know everything, but if I don't know the answer to something, I'm going to go find it.
Being resourceful.
Be resourceful. Do not expect anything to be given to you. I used to tell my son this all the time. Nothing given. Nothing given. Go get it. You just got to go get it. Yeah. I mean, if there's a 15-year-old out there in high school right now watching this, you're like, man, I want to do this. I want to do that. Go get it. Don't let anything deter you from what it is you want to do. There will be bumps in the road. There will be setbacks. But once you get up, you got to keep going. Go get it.
And surround yourself with people that are like-minded.
Yes.
Even though they may not be operating in the same field, but people that are go-getters, and people that will motivate you and encourage you to walk in your faith, walk in your purpose.
Those demotivators,
well, I call them well-meaners.
You won't have
they mean well. They'll kill your dream.
You're going to have to get from around them. And we love that, and typically there's somebody that we really love and we really care about, and they're really close to us, and you don't want to end those relationships. And you don't necessarily have to, but when you identify that I am going to do this, you don't allow anything to stop you. Yes. You will not allow anything to stop you. And that's really kind of how you got to be whether it's graduating high school, graduating college, graduating a trade program, starting your own business. Don't let anything deter you from doing that thing. You saw it. God gave you that vision. Don't let anybody or anything stop you.
And that's the key thing, right? Is you write it down, you make it plain, you pray about it, give it to God, but you have to do
some work.
And I think a lot of times we fall into that mindset of, I prayed about it, so I'm just going to wait on God to sit it in front of me. It doesn't work like that. Works is different. So you still have to
do some
work, and that's where we go to, like I say, the GPA part, right? Goal, write down the goal, figure out what it is you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
Write down the plan to achieve that goal. And then you got to have consistent action. Absolutely. It has to be in order. You can't just go out and start moving, saying, hey, I want to go buy a house and start a real estate company. First off, you said something earlier that you touched on. Before you moved into this realm, you made sure that your personal credit was where it needed.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I did, was to get my personal credit together. Understanding that, yes, there's a lot of business financial resources out there, but what they don't like to tell you is, you got to have good personal credit to get those things.
Nobody's
exactly. And with a new business, if these people loan you some money, you need to have some revenue coming in so you can pay these people back. You know what I'm saying? And so we got to be smart about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not make poor decisions. So yeah, that was one of the first things I did.
So yeah, that's the key, right? Is make sure that you're putting forth the work. It's got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You're taking care of all the things you need to take care of. You're dotting your I's, crossing your T's, getting the knowledge. Nowadays, we've gotten so lazy, we don't even have to get up and go to a library now, right?
Right.
We can pull out a phone and we got access to any information that we want to get. And yet we use it for all the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the key thing. Adrienne's definition of success.
My definition of success is very simple. Achieving a goal that I set out for myself, whether it's a daily goal, a weekly goal, or an annual goal. If I was able to accomplish something that I said I wanted to do, to me, that's success. Even if you don't accomplish it, but you learned something in the process of trying to achieve a goal, that's still success. I think when we make success be this really big thing that we were able to accomplish, and we're like, yeah, man, I did it. Buying a house or saving $1,000 or saving $10,000, whatever. When you make it so big, it almost becomes sometimes unachievable, and you lose momentum if you don't accomplish it.
Yes.
You lose momentum, and it was because the goal was almost unrealistic. And so you lose momentum and then you just stop. Success to me is like, if I was able to set a goal and I was able to accomplish it and I got it done, whether it was in the amount of time that I wanted to get it done or not, if it was a little past, that's success. And so we should have multiple successes, right?
You got to have those milestones.
Yeah, whether it's a daily milestone or a weekly one, you should be successful every week. You should be able to say at the end of that week, I was successful. in something, right? So when we say talking with success, that doesn't mean, I'm not necessarily successful because I have these 3 businesses that I run. I'm not necessarily successful because I have a 14, 15-year career in nursing. Success could be, I woke up today and I had a goal to cut the grass and do all the laundry in the house. And I did it. That was a success for that day.
Absolutely.
And so I think when we create small goals and you're able to achieve them, that gives you momentum to move on to the next thing, right? And so yeah, that's success to me.
It's funny that you say that because I think about sometimes when I'm on a road trip and I've gotten to the point now, if I'm driving long distances, let's say I have to drive 200 miles, I make it a habit mentally to break it down into 10-mile sections.
Yeah.
And so I tell myself, okay, especially on those long road trips where if I'm getting tired or whatever, and I'm like, man, I still got another 100 miles to go. I trick my mind. I don't say I got 100 miles to go. I got 10 more clicks I got to go.
Yeah.
So I know that, hey, if I break it down to 10, my mind is like, okay, we can do 10.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started to check it off.
I'm telling you, that's all you got to do is make little goals. I'm in a discipleship class right now. And every week we be having to learn these scriptures. It be a lot of scriptures. And I come back the next week and I done had a rough work week and I may not know my scripture, but when I can go back in that class and I'm able to recite my scriptures, I'm like, oh yeah. To me, that's success.
Yep.
I was able to go from week to week and I learned my scriptures and I was able to say them and elaborate on them. That's success. Give yourself grace.
Yes.
Give yourself grace. Like none of us are perfect out here, whether we have large businesses, small businesses, whatever, we all got something we dealing with. So I just feel like the small wins matter. The small wins matter. And they really, really fuel us to move forward. Because when you make it so big and you don't achieve it, you get defeated.
Yes.
You get defeated. And so don't allow yourself to get defeated. Create small, realistic, attainable goals.
Yes.
And the more you do those, then you'll be able to accomplish a lot more. I'm like, man, y'all trying to go out here and save the world. We just need to get from week to week, day to day.
And that's what happens too many times, right? Somebody will say, okay, I got a goal. I want my business to generate $1 million. Well, how about you make $5 first?
Hey.
Make 5.
Yeah.
Now we got something to build off on. We can now just duplicate that.
Yes.
But what we get in that thought process, I want to make $1 million. When we don't make $1 million in 6 months, that wasn't right. That wasn't the right bit.
It wasn't the right bit. Oh, God told me I wasn't even supposed to be doing it. See, but no, like measure yourself day over day, week over week. If I made $100 in sales this week, and then the next week I make 150, and the next week I make 178, and then that next week, I doubled it, and I'm well over 400 in sales. It's the small wins that I think, don't glaze over the small wins. Don't do that. Yeah. Those small wins are going to give you the momentum you need to keep going, right?
Yes.
Just like working out. You might have lost 2 pounds this week. Hey, that's 2 pounds less than what I weighed the week.
Now with that, don't go back and eat 20 pounds of ribs.
Exactly.
That 2 is going to go the other way.
Exactly. But if you're getting 2 pounds a week, you're making progress. Yeah. There's no different in entrepreneurship. The small wins matter.
Yeah. So what's next for Adrienne?
What's next for me? Well, like I mentioned earlier, I've got, a house that's under renovation at the moment that I'm wrapping up the renovation on it, and it'll go to market here pretty soon and get that sold. And then I'm probably going to take a break from real estate. The market is crazy. The economy is crazy. A lot of people are suffering right now. So a lot of people aren't purchasing homes right now. And so we'll probably take a pause on flipping at the moment. But we continue to do, insurance renovations and renovations for homeowners. And so we'll continue to do that. With Biz Launcher, my prayer is that I continue to gain new clients. And so if there's anyone out there that's looking to start a new business in any state, whatever that is, feel free to reach out, because we want to gain new clients. We want to share, insights on how you can build a fundable business and grow and scale your business in time. And so really focusing on Biz Launcher, trying to get it off the ground. We're doing some building, which is a first for us, which is really exciting. So just some development and some building. That's been pretty fun. And just continuing to grow. Not grow too fast, but continuing to grow. and really finalize and hone in on our processes. But yeah, that's what it is.
People that are potential clients that want to reach out to you.
Yeah, Biz Launcher. We're on social media on Instagram and TikTok, so you can find us at Biz Launch Her. So there's 2 H's in there on Instagram and TikTok. ABL Solutions online at ablsolutionstx.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook. Arm Homes, you probably wouldn't want to search us, but Arm Homes, if you're looking to build and you want some insights on how you can build on some land you may have, you can reach us at armhomestx.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
So once again, I appreciate you stopping by to talk with me tonight. It's a great conversation.
Yeah.
Very intelligent, very successful, and the spirit and anointing is all over.
All right.
Look at God.
Now look at God.
That's been this episode of Talking with Success with Adrienne Hollins. I'm looking for more and more great things coming from you and your business partners.
For sure.
And we're going to keep our eyes out, keep our ears to the ground, listening for all the great things that you're doing in the community. Continue to thrive.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. That's this week's episode. See you guys next week.